Let's be honest, everybody is talking about AI right now, but very few people are talking about what it's doing to leaders, the pressure, the pace, the expectation to adapt instantly while still performing at the highest level. And here's the real question nobody wants to ask. What happens when the leader becomes the bottleneck? Or worse, the one burning out trying to keep up? Because disruption doesn't just test your strategy, it exposes your mindset. And today, we're not just talking about AI transformation, we're talking about how to lead through it without losing yourself in the process.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. I am Dr. Alisa Whyte, your number one mindset disruptor. And today, listen, this is where we don't just talk about success. We talk about the mindset required to sustain it. Because you can have strategy and you can have the opportunity. But if your mindset is not aligned, you will sabotage the very thing you prayed for. And today's conversation, well, this one is for leaders who are in the room where decisions matter most. Today, I am joined by Ms. Victoria Mensch. Victoria is an expert in equipping executive leaders and their teams with the mindset and practical tools that she brings with over 25 years of experience leading change. She masters AI transformation using Silicon Valley's innovation playbook. And she's also at the highest levels, backed by her PhD in psychology. You know, I love that one. And an MBA from Berkeley. So she doesn't just understand systems, she understands people. And let me tell you this, through her work with the Silicon Valley Executive Academy, she helps leaders navigate disruption with clarity, confidence, and impact without burning out in the whole process. And y'all know how that is. She's also the creator of the Vital Method. Yeah, I said vital, Vital. So why don't we know it? Well, you're about to find out today because she helps leaders turn bold leadership into something actionable and sustainable. And let me just say this, because this really matters. Victoria has also been recognized in the top 2% of podcast speakers globally. So we're about to get into conversation that is not just insightful, but it's really, truly necessary. And I call it an absolute privilege. Victoria, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. We're so excited to have you. And earlier I said, how many podcasts have you been on? But top 2% listen. That's pretty, we're not going to even count. I'm sure you stop. So in your own words, tell the Mindset Mastery crew who's been missing out on you what you do and why you do it.
Thank you so much, Alisa. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very excited about this conversation. It's a very timely conversation. So, as you said, a lot of what we do is really around artificial intelligence. But what we're coming from is Silicon Valley Innovation Playbook. So at Silicon Valley Executive Academy, we help companies, organizations, teams to tap into that Silicon Valley Innovation Playbook. There's something that Silicon Valley companies do, when Silicon Valley leaders do, that really sets them apart, especially on the innovation front. Something that they do that allow them to compete on innovation, to come up with new ideas, breakthrough ideas, and bring them to life. And that's what we call the Silicon Valley Innovation Playbook.
Awesome. I love it. But everybody is talking about AI, and it is, of course, a little bit of a disruption for some people. And that's a positively. Obviously, I go as the number one mindset disruptor. So when I look at disruption, I never see it as a negative thing. So when I'm looking at leaders and I'm thinking AI isn't the problem, it's how we're thinking about it. Right? Let's start here. What are leaders getting wrong right now when it comes to AI transformation?
AI is not a little disruption, that's for sure. I think we as people, as humans, we tend to overestimate the impact of technology in a short period of time and really underestimate the long-term impact. So a lot of that frustration and tension is really coming from that. We're overestimating the impact currently, and we're underestimating what AI is going to do to how it's going to impact the way we live, the way we work, the way we make decisions. So what we're getting wrong right now is really the short-term thinking that I want to gain something right now. I want to realize those gains from the productivity right now. I want to improve my services and my processes right now. Where the part that is really important with AI, an opportunity that we don't want to miss, is that opportunity for transformation. And that transformation is really to sit down and think how AI is going to impact my business in the long term, how AI is going to impact my life in the long term, how AI is going to impact customer behavior in the long term. If I were to start my business now, having this technology at my fingertips, how would I do it differently? So instead of just applying the technology to the processes that may be good, maybe not so good, maybe broken, and creating more noise through that, that's really an opportunity from a mindset perspective to look at this. How can I transform? What can I do dramatically differently so that I can be prepared and I can take full advantage of this phenomenal breakthrough technology?
Yes, absolutely. It is phenomenal. And every day I'm like, all right, thanks for the info, but not today. When I keep getting more information from my peers and I'm like, not today. I am already fascinated that I can build an entire website in an hour with AI when I was paying so much money to build my funnels and I didn't even like the design. So now I get to play with it myself and I just love it. So there's so much going on. So would you say the real gap isn't skill, but it's mindset? Because I see a lot of high level leaders, they're successful, but they're rigid. And AI doesn't reward rigidity at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's several layers to this. And one of those layers is that it's definitely a disruption. So there's definitely uncertainty. And I think from a leadership perspective, we're not going to run away from uncertainty. So it's only going to increase, right? And the AI is actually amplifying that as well. So ability to deal with that uncertainty and having tools to make decisions and judgment in that uncertainty, that's very important from a leadership perspective. And again, as I said, AI is only amplifying that. So one of the important things to understand about AI, that is really a cognitive revolution, right? So this is something that directly speaks to our intellectual processes. So at some point, it's, some leaders feel threatened. So we exactly. So I felt threatened once in a while. I look at this and like, wow, yeah, I can do this.
Because what I've been doing, I mean, imagine I've been writing all these, I wrote all these books, I write my articles, and then I'm finding out people are just writing it with AI. And I'm like, what?
Right. So an example that you actually talked about the website, right? So it took a team of people anywhere between 1 to 3 months, sometimes longer, to build a website. And now you can just talk to the tool, in 5 minutes, and then in 30 minutes you can have a full-blown website, right?
Yes.
So that's obviously a part of its excitement as a business owner. I'm so excited that I can talk to machines finally. I don't need to know how to code. I can
Exactly.
directly transmit my thoughts, right?
Yes.
But on the part of that team of people who had worked for 3 months, for them, it's probably not so exciting. It's threatening. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. As leaders, we have to keep in mind that we are subject to that threat, but also people who we work with, who we lead, they feel that threat as well. So how do you actually take them through that process so that they don't feel threatened, so they actually do feel valuable and they contribute more into what you want to achieve?
Exactly. I guess it's hard. I've met, for example, the people who built my website, and I'm like, okay, so now I just want you to do the automation and connecting the dots. They're like, oh, you should let me do it. I'm like, no, I don't want to go back and forth with you because every time you build me a website, you got to send it back and forth for approval. And if I don't have time, it could take a week. It could take 2 weeks for me to get time again. And these projects are just sitting back. So when I do it and you finish it off, we get it done in a week. I'm not firing you. You still work with me. You still have a job and the pay is not changing. So if you embrace this technology, what about all the people that do pay you? hourly. Now you just build sites faster. There's still a whole bunch of people who are not going to build websites ever that need one. And they're not going to use AI. So as a leader, I am reassuring my team that, listen, this just makes our work faster and we're more productive. It doesn't mean it eliminates the need for you. There's parts of this that AI will not replace. It's still, someone has to connect the domains and all these things.
Exactly. So there's an opportunity to uplift the people who work for you. So for them, we had this discussion recently. There was an interview from, I think, a CEO of NVIDIA who said that I don't want my software engineers to code anymore. I want them to solve problems. I want them to find solutions. In the same way, so people who work for me or work with me, I don't want them to write emails, right? So when you look at the task level, at the activity level, what do you do all day? Oh, I type. Well, I don't want anyone to type, right? So I want
Problem
exactly. So
solving.
if I can get away without typing, that would be fantastic. So that's an opportunity that AI actually on individual level presents. So you look at the activities that you have and you unbundle them. So it's really a kind of an era of unbundling jobs, right? So you unbundle it and say, well, these are the tasks that can be automated. I'm happy to automate this task, but now I have the time to think about how do I elevate what I do? What is
Elevate the
the
work.
additional value that I can create? Value that brings me excitement, value that allows me to dive deeper into my talents and my gifts and surface them. So what is it that I can create now that I don't need to do those routine and automated tasks? And what we also know, people who are using AI, especially content creators and coaches and marketers, what we also know that what you put into this is what you're going to get out of it. So there's so much noise, especially from a content creation perspective. We're all starting to recognize the AI produced, automatically produced content from a real and authentic content. So how do I actually unbundle the job that I have so that I can free up that time for that authentic kind of expression of my thoughts and ideas, something that AI cannot do at this point and will never be able to do
Never.
because that's where your uniqueness is really shining. That's an opportunity to do that. So it's not an easy task from a leader's perspective. If you think of it, you want to create that environment when people feel safe to go through this process. Because what also can happen and is happening in a lot of organizations is that now that we can automate some of those activities, the expectation is that humans all of a sudden will start producing results with the same pace. So, and that's not possible. And you don't want it to be this way. So the
No.
whole idea here is really to free up that creativity, to free up that authenticity, to free up those things that we cannot automate and outsource to AI and machines.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And that's a big, big tip and a shift that needs to be made in our leaders. Let's go a little bit deeper because you work with executives at those higher levels. What is the mindset shift required to lead in an era right now? I mean, I felt like you give us one already, but what are you telling executives right now that's most important in their shift in this era? Regardless if it's AI or anything, just the things that are affecting us collectively.
So, first of all, speaking about emerging technologies and disruptions and uncertainty, yes, there is a lot of fear out there. There's things that we don't know. The only thing we know is the only thing that's certain is that there will be uncertainty, right?
Certainty.
Exactly. The only certainty is that there's uncertainty. And it's almost, you want to accept it. Like you want to accept it as a given. You cannot control everything. So that kind of understanding what needs to be controlled and what doesn't need to be controlled, that's a big step into the right direction. So understanding that there's this uncertainty and staying in that open kind of mindset and having that flexibility and having that curiosity is like, oh, what is it out there? What is it beyond my fear, right? So to have this like, how exciting it can be. So that's a mindset shift for sure. So like letting go of that unnecessary control, relinquishing that unnecessary control and being in that state of curiosity. What is that tomorrow can bring to me? So
Right.
that's an interesting way to embrace that uncertainty. The
Love
second
it.
what we usually talk about is that you're not late. From the emerging technology perspective, yes, there is a lot of noise out there. You're late, how you're behind, how if you do not do something right now, you're never going to catch up. That's not the case. We know that that's not the case. If
Yes.
anything, you're in great position right now to look at the examples and the experiences of people who tried, who ran the pilot, who learned
Yes.
the lessons, who maybe failed and are willing to share this with you. So you're in a better position to actually look at how nobody is behind. We're all trying to figure this out together, more or less at the
Exactly.
same
And
pace.
at our
But
own pace. Yeah.
yes, but you want to figure this out at the same time. It's not something, well, I'll never catch up, so I'm not going to touch it, or it's not relevant to me. It is relevant. So you want to figure this out, but you're not behind. So nobody's behind. We're all trying to figure this out. And the
Yes.
third part that I usually talk about is just think about the future of work. What is it going to do with the way we work and what kind of qualities we want to amplify in people we work with? So now we
Mm-hmm.
talked about the automation, we talked about those routine tasks. So what it means is that from people who are still working,
Mm-hmm.
now with the AI agents, right? So that human qualities that you want to see is creativity. You
Yes.
want to see proactive people. You want to see new ideas. You want to see people who are collaborating with each other. So that actually requires a different style of leadership. What the style of
Yes.
leadership that we had in terms of just management and kind of delegating tasks throughout the hierarchical system, that is not very applicable in AI first organizations or in AI driven
Mm-hmm.
organizations,
Right.
because what you want to get out of people and how you want people to show up is different, and how you want to lead those people is different. So you
That's
want to
right.
lead through mentorship, not through giving commands. You want to lead through mentorships, not through direct orders. You want to lead through empathy. So it's really that emotional intelligence that we're talking about is really getting much more, and we've been talking about for a long time, but that's actually now we're moving into this world where these are critical leadership skills to be developed.
That are required, exactly. So what I'm hearing you say is leaders can't just rely on what made them successful before, because the same mindset that got you here will cap you here as well. You got to keep
Exactly.
shifting and moving and just be comforted in that you're not behind. You just have to get started and keep going. That's it. Keep evolving, right? So let's talk about something that's always, I mentioned it earlier, people that they don't like to talk about it because we're high performing, we're responsible for so many people and things like that. But that big word is burnout. And it's not at that entry level, it's at the top, right? What are you seeing in executives right now? And do you think burnout is more of like a workload, or is it just misalignment? How do you judge that?
Mhm.
And how do you guys coach?
You mentioned, and I think it's very important to understand, especially for high achievers, high performers, people at the top, we are trained and conditioned to see burnout as weakness. So we think that we'll just push through. Maybe I'm not as motivated today as I was tomorrow. Maybe I'm tired today. Maybe I cannot, get my energy over, but I'll just push through this. And that's really the wrong attitude
Mm.
that gets people deeper into
In
burnout. But I think the
burnout.
good news is that there is a much better awareness now of
Hmm.
what burnout is, what are the symptoms, how to recognize those symptoms, and how to ask for help. So the ship is
Okay.
turning. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done to actually understand and accept that we're people, we are prone to burnout, and
Yes.
we can seek help. At the end of the day, on the physiological level, burnout is a chronic stress reaction.
Hmm.
A stress reaction is a very useful reaction. The people who are who are in burnout, and I'm one of those. The reason I'm talking about burnout because I went through several cycles of those,
It's
only
a
to
burnout.
understand.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So only
Yeah.
to realize, like, oh, okay, well, I do have um, I do have kind of power over this, right? So,
Yes.
changing the mindset to get out of the burnout. But the good thing is that this is very useful reaction. The stress reaction is a survival reaction. So it's a
Hmm.
really elevated survival mode. It's elevated too much into the chronic kind of state where we cannot relax and we are really exhausting our nervous system, our body.
Hmm.
We're exhausting
Hmm.
that through that stress reaction. That stress reaction is a very intense on the body because this is how you mobilize all your energy just for that one particular action of survival, right? And
Hmm.
another side of this is one is what is it? Yeah, survival. And the other one is rest and digest. So that's our normal,
Yeah.
our normal reaction where all other systems, they're coming on board and they're functioning
Hmm.
the way they need to function. So from the physiological perspective, that's that. So realizing that, understanding that you want to learn to switch from that survival mode to rest and digest mode. And there are
Yes.
elements that are within your control on the physiological level that you can kind of shift almost immediately, right? And those are your breathing techniques because breath is that language between your body and between your mind. Our survival system doesn't understand words because it's pre-verbal system. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a learning another language, how you can communicate with your physiological reactions. So breathing is one of those. Meditation, taking a
Yeah.
break, kind of a visualization, right? Not maybe not
Hmm.
meditation, but visualization, just
Yes.
sitting down and visualizing that calm environment and activity. And I'm not talking about running marathons. It could be just a brisk walk for 5 minutes. That's actually completes the
Yes.
stress reaction and allows you to switch from a physiological perspective.
Yes. Just even a
Now,
little
from the
dancing and laughing.
psychology perspective, right?
Yeah.
As you said, that's a different story. You want to learn how to replenish your energy, right? So that
Yes.
burnout is really very draining. Exhaustion and tiredness is that constant thread throughout burnout signals. So you want to learn how to replenish that energy. And
Yes.
we can talk about the ways we can do that too.
Yes, and we're going to talk about your vital method. Let's break it down practically because you created it and walk us through what it actually means and how leaders can apply it right now.
So vital method is really about that inner mastery. How can you master that mindset, set of behaviors that allow you um, sustainably switch from that survival mode to a more sustainable leadership mode, recharge your energy, and sustain the pressure of that leadership and expectations and ambitions. So
Yes.
we start with that, I spoke a little bit. We start with that V, which is a vital energy. So that
Yes.
your way to protect your assets and your main assets in yourself. So think about
Yes.
you as an athlete. I'm an athlete. I need to take care of my mindset, of my body. And we talk about what I call the microjoy method, kind of the way of
Ah.
intentionally bringing joy back into your life so you can re-energize and you can kind of turn on that vitality on the
Mhm.
daily method. So you basically intentionally bring out joy to your life. As an athlete, this is an exercise that I do, and that's what
Yes.
helps me there. Now, I stands for that inner mastery. You lead others the way you lead yourself.
Mm,
Are you
I
holding on
love
to things
that.
that you cannot control? As we
Mm,
talked about, relinquishing that control, right? So can you what is important, what is not as important, and you can allow others to complete. So the T stands for true success, your
mm,
definition of success, not what
right.
others told you, not what they taught you at school or at college, not what society tells you success is, but your
Mhm.
true success that based on your values and how you measure that success based on your value. And now we're talking about aligned actions, the A in that vital abbreviation. So based on those values and based on your renewed energy level, what are the actions that you can take that are in line with your values? So how can you actually focus on the outcomes instead of
Mm,
necessary tasks, right? And then the
Right.
last one, which I really love the most, is that the L is really for leadership, lead by design. So you are that role model for
Mm,
others. People around you are going to mirror your behavior. So if you
yes.
are that champion of burnout proof strategist, people are going to mirror that. If you're the
Yes.
one who is holding tight to the control and you're not allowing others to contribute and help, so people around you are going to mirror that. But if
Mhm.
you are someone who, for example, practices gratitude, right, and noticing things that you like before you noticing things that you don't like, people around you are actually going to mirror that as well.
Mhm.
So that gratitude will be returned to you in a form of loyalty within the
Mhm.
organization.
Yes. Oh, I love it. That is very thorough in its sense in personal and professional. That's like that well-rounded leader ideology because most people love frameworks, but they struggle with execution. And so this is one that's very applicable. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now let's talk about flip the script. If you can share, it's one of my favorite parts of the show. And I just love the different answers we get. Tell us about a moment in your own life when you had to pivot or shift or completely rethink your approach. What was your mindset shift? What changed and what was the outcome?
Well, when you were talking about my biography, a lot of people actually are taking back, like, well, how is, why is she doing, why is she a PhD in psychology? How did that come about? And then
Right.
she spent 25 years in the high tech industry building
Yes.
startups and innovation. Well, the reason was that I really thought that I followed my passion. I thought I was very passionate about psychology. Straight from high school, I really wanted to be a psychologist, and I got all my degrees, bachelor, master's, PhD. So I really, dove
Yes.
deep into
Into
psychology. And then I actually started counseling people only to, about a year in, um, you know what, I made a mistake. I thought I was
wow.
following my passion, but it's not. So I need to pivot. And it was a hard decision to make, but I looked at the skills that I have and I looked around how I can apply my skills in a corporate environment. And I chose marketing and product marketing at that. So I
Which
pivoted
is the
into
psychology really counts for that. Doing marketing psychology is great for it.
yeah, so I pivoted into product marketing in the semiconductor industry. So a complete pivot. Let's not deal with people at all. Only again to find myself in the same shoes about a couple of years later. Same, it's like, oh, I made another mistake. So I
Right.
thought that I was that by changing my career and, kind of 180-degree pivot to a totally
Mhm.
different industry, that I
Yeah.
will fix what I was not satisfied with. But no. And then it took me a couple of more cycles like that to realize that no matter what, I actually take myself with me.
With
No, no matter how many companies I change, how many locations I change, how many careers I change, at the end of the day, I take myself with me. So that's exactly what I am observing in people, especially in this high performing, kind of high achieving roles,
mhm.
because they get to the point where they just want to quit.
Mhm.
I cannot take one more day of this. If I go
Right.
to work one more day, I really am going to lose myself.
I'm gonna burn
So,
down or something. Yeah.
right, exactly. So, all I want to do is go to tropical island and sit under the coconut tree, right, and
Yes.
relax. And what do you
Drink
think
a day
happens 1 month in,
when you
right?
go
So they're
there.
exactly. So they're still restless. They're still unsatisfied. So what I realized is that it's really about internal mindset. Yes, there are circumstances that are outside of our control. We're talking
Mhm.
about disruption earlier. It could be
Yeah.
technological disruption. It could be political disruption. It could be some kind of a personal disruption.
Mhm.
It could be climate disruptions. There's so many disruptions that are going on, that things that are outside of our control. But there are a lot of things that are inside of our control. And that's how I deal with this situation, how I react to these situations, how I take a pause to choose my reaction. That's where my power lies. And that's what
Yes.
we talk about when we talk about burnout proof leadership. In that pause between the stimulus and reaction, that's your opportunity for choice.
Oh, that is so good. We're in a time where I meet more people who are so dissatisfied. And yes, a lot of high achievers, people at the top, even with their businesses or their careers, they're like, I completely did the wrong degree. I completely don't like this. It's been a year out and I can't do it. And so we appreciate your vulnerability and your share because I just want to let everyone hear that it's okay to pivot. Like, it's not necessarily even a mistake because look at where you are now, right? You're sitting here talking to people all over the world and you're leading in Silicon Valley. So the question that I want to be asking a lot of our female top execs and leaders as they come on the podcast, specifically for women, can a woman have it all? And what does it take if she does?
Yes, a woman can have it all, but not at the same time.
That's my answer.
And if you look again, when we're talking about the theory of it, right? So what my message is that we want to really reach that state of flourishing as a baseline. And when we talk about that state of flourishing, so that's our normal baseline, not exhausted, not feeling guilty, not feeling tired and unmotivated. Our baseline is that state of flourishing. What does it mean? That state of flourishing, there are several components that contribute to that. Your job is important, but it's not the only one. And it's not a job actually, but we unbundle that as well. So there's a financial stability that's important. There's also your sense of purpose that's very
Yes.
important. Then there's a sense of community, your relationship between with your loved ones, with the community overall. That's
Large,
important
yeah.
component into that harmony, right? And then there is that state of vitality that we're talking about, when you feel that you are strong, that you're healthy, that you're emotionally stable. So there are all
Yes.
these components that contribute to that. So it's not just, oh, there's work, there's a family, and there's some kind of balance
Oh,
between them. If there is
yes.
more work, then there is less life,
Exactly. And
there's
not just
more
output,
life.
output.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So we are this multidimensional, multi-passionate human beings, and there are all these components that contribute in the state of flourishing. So now where the empowerment part comes in is that once you understand that, you know that this is your choice. Today, maybe your choice is to spend more time with your kids, and tomorrow your choice might be different, but you
Right.
know what actually contributes into that state of harmony and flourishing. So you can make that choice.
Yes. Oh, I'm clapping because harmony is my word because people say balance and I'm like, I don't know. That is such a conditional word and it's relative to basically whatever. So you might say, "Oh, I have a well-balanced life." I'm looking like your life is chaos. But for you it's harmonic, right? You feel like you said you have the vitality. Your baseline is flourishing, you have abundance, you feel abundant, and those things, like you said, I was looking everywhere, changing the different careers and locations and jobs, but at the end, I was bringing me. So if that's you, for me, that's already win. That's the win. If that's where you're at, because as long
Exactly.
wherever you show up, no matter what the storm looks like, you'll be like, I'm grounded, I'm firm here. So after everything you have accomplished and all the work that you've done and everything that you are as a strong, valiant leader, Victoria, what is your definition of success personally?
To me, success is that state of flourishing, that,
Mm.
having that as a North Star
Yes.
and having that as a baseline, that's success. Success is not something that comes from outside, not something that people tell you what success is. I think the culmination of success when you start looking at the validation internally. I am true to myself, to my values, and I am devoted to my state of flourishing.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the flourishing that my base, I love that you say baseline because that is what my hope is for everyone that listens to this podcast. I talk about mindset is the key to your success, but I believe that the goal of healing and growing and nurturing and walking and living in your purpose, that's true for you, is definitely where I just want you to be at a place of abundance. Like it doesn't matter what the pay is, what the tide is, what the stock market exchange say, but inside of you, it's always abundance. And with that mindset, I feel like whether you lost your job, you're going to feel pain. You're going to feel sadness. You might feel grief and there will be lost, but you still know, oh, I have everything within me that can recreate the external abundance that I seek, because that internal abundance is a, like you said, a reservoir and not just a bucket or a cup of water. Like a cup, it's a
Exactly.
reservoir, it doesn't end. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And I think what's beautiful about it is that there's really that sense of empowerment, right? So I'm like, I
Yes.
am at the steering wheel of this. So when I have all
Mm,
these components and I know how they contribute into my state of mind and my state of being, right? So I'm at the steering wheel to increase one or another and design my life and my path and my definition of success according to my
exactly.
rules.
And I just hope everybody caught that part, because that is the only way you are truly successful. When it's measured on the outside, the benchmark keeps moving. See, you get to where you bought the big house, you are on the cover of Forbes, you have the Lamborghini, you have all that, and still the world is like saying, "Huh, we wonder what's next for Victoria." So the my benchmark always moves because they're valuing your success based on what's external. So you will never ever be at the level of success, even for you sometimes, if it's always measured from external. So I think that's so profound. Thank you for sharing that with us. Victoria, we do something called Mindset Bites to Go, and I can't wait to hear you have it. This is where I step away from the microphone and the camera, and it's just you and our listeners and viewers. I would love for you to speak directly to that leader who feels overwhelmed, behind, or even uncertain in our AI-driven world that we have. I'll just give you the mic and the cam, and it's just you. What do they need to hear from you today? Here we go.
Well, for every leader, or every person out there, I want to say that leadership starts with self-leadership. And there is a lot of power that we have inside ourselves, lots of resources that we have inside ourselves. And once we manage those resources, that's actually the road to success.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That is so spot on. Victoria, this has been such a great, powerful episode. Tell us how we can connect with you. And I would love for you to mention as well, because we'll put it in the description, your LinkedIn newsletter as well, too, and some other things that you have going on that you'd love for us to tap into.
Well, exactly. If you liked what we were talking about today and you want to learn more about these topics and understand better kind of the dynamic between the leadership and emerging technologies and AI, I invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, Innovation Insights, that you can find on our website, Silicon Valley, svexecutive.academy, as you can see on the screen. And you can always reach out to me personally on LinkedIn, Victoria Mensch. I'm very active there and I'll respond to each and every message. And if you do want to tap into that Silicon Valley Innovation Playbook, you're welcome to join our immersion programs and experience for yourself what it means to live and breathe innovation in Silicon Valley.
Definitely worth checking out. I'm a subscriber of the LinkedIn newsletter for some time now. Very, very insightful. Listen, disruptors, if you've got value from this, don't just sit on it, apply it. Because information without implementation, well, that's just noise. We all know you got to do the walking and the talking. And we're not here for the noise. We're here for transformation. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure you reach out to Victoria. Let her know that you heard her here on Mindset Mastery Moments. And as always, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.